I made a game about using time loops to solve puzzles in just 4 days. I did this as part of the GMTK Game Jam. Game jams are something that I have a rough personal history with, so I really wanted this one to go well because I'm sick of saying, well, there's always next year. I've participated in a game jam every year for the past 6 years, and none of them have gone well. The games never turned out well due to inexperience and poor time management, which usually leads to a boring and barely functional game. If you don't know, a game jam is an online competition where you try to create the best game that you can following a certain theme from scratch in a very short amount of time. The GMTK Jam, hosted by the YouTuber Game Maker's Toolkit, is a game jam that happens every single year, and I always try to participate. The length for this game jam was 4 days, but I pretty much only had 48 hours to do it. I'll explain in a second. A game jam starts when the theme is revealed, so every game that's submitted has to follow that theme in some way. But I was busy when this game jam started because it started on a Wednesday at 1 p.m. and I'm one of those losers that eats food and pays rent, so I was at work when this happened. But after all that, I came home and I watched the theme reveal video that kicks off the game jam. Let's see what we got here.
And this year's theme is just one word.
One word.
Loop. As always,
I thought the theme was one word. I thought that's what... No, but it's a loop. Okay.
Perhaps it's about doing the exact same thing over and over again. Perhaps it's about racetracks or programming instructions or loop the loops. You'll get a chance to explain how your game fits the theme when you submit it. Make sure you keep an eye on the Game Jam.
Okay, so the theme is loop. My mind immediately jumps to like a time loop. You know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of this old Corridor Digital viral video. What was it called? Clock Blockers. Yeah. Clock Blockers is a short film by the channel Corridor Digital, or Corridor Now, where it shows a made-up one-on-one shooter game where the players use former versions of themselves in a time loop to try to kill each other. The best example of this is when the first player immediately runs and sets up a wooden barrier, only to get shot. Then in the next time loop, the first version of himself still runs and sets up the barrier and gets shot, but the second version of him in the second time loop is now able to hide behind that and use it as cover. I immediately thought of this when the theme was revealed to be loop. I thought about this time loop, so I figured I could turn it into a game. So this is the idea for the game. The player is trying to reach a portal at the end of the level. They can run around, jump, and press some buttons that interact with the level, but they only have 10 seconds. When time is up, time loops back to the start and the player controls another version of themselves, while the first version goes through the time loop in the exact same way. Then time loops again, and now there are 2 time clones while the player controls a third, and so on, until the player reaches 5 time loops. If they don't reach the end portal by then, it's game over. However, if they reach the portal in 5 time loops or less, they win. At this point, I haven't really thought too deeply about any puzzles, but I'm thinking that we can do puzzles like the first time clone walks over and steps on a pressure plate that opens a door, and the second one can walk through, and so on. Maybe there's 2 pressure plates that both have to be activated to open a door, so you have to coordinate the time loops to activate at the same time. I don't really know, but first we have to actually build the time loop itself. I'm not really too sure about all the puzzles right now, but first I just want to get the actual skeleton of the game together first before we start designing and building puzzles. So now that the game plan is set, make sure to give this video a like, or if you don't now, then just do it in the next time loop. So the first thing I did was open up a new project in Unity, and I chose the first-person starter template. This already comes with a first-person character that can run around and jump, which is a good chunk of gameplay already taken care of. I first created starting spots for each of the 5 clones, and I gave each clone a bright distinct color so that it's easy to tell them apart. Then I started on the time loop. So I started by getting the time loop to reset the player and control the next clone, and have the first clone perfectly reenact the player's movements. But I really wasn't able to make that much progress the first 2 days of the jam because, you know, the whole work thing I do during the week. But then Saturday came around and I was able to put in a good long day of work to make the time loops loop. Here's how it all works in 3 steps. Step 1. The player runs around and does whatever, and every 10th of a second, this script records the player's current position. So you can imagine the player leaving a trail of dots representing where they were at that moment in time. Step 2. Time runs out and the loop resets. The player gets moved to the second starting position, and the clone is spawned at the first position. This clone is given that long list of positions that we know are a 10th of a second apart. Step 3. The clone moves to each position smoothly every 10th of a second. I promise I'm almost done saying a 10th of a second. But because it moves to each position in the same time interval, it copies the player's movement almost perfectly, creating the effect of a repeated time loop. Then I had to implement some of the stuff that we're going to use to make the puzzles, buttons and pressure plates, Minecraft style. They don't do anything cool yet, but we'll make them do cool stuff when we actually, design and build the puzzles in the levels. But for now, we're going to give the game some visual style. I tried to keep it real simple since I'm not much of an artist and I don't have time to spend meticulously making cool art for this game, so I just made these black and blue grid lines and made them glowy, and I think it looks pretty cool for how easy it was to do. Plus, it really helps the green portal stick out as an obvious goal to go towards. But after this, I was getting really tired and the clock was starting to wind down. Okie dokie. It is about 1:30 a.m. Honestly, not that late. The jam is over in a little bit under 12 hours now. About 11 hours to go. Not that late, but I've been going since about 9 a.m. this morning, 9:30. My brain is absolutely fried right now. So we've got the basic structure of a game here, in the main level. We've got the mechanics into the game. Every you run around, you can step on a lever, you can press a button and the button does a thing, and then the time will loop and your guy will, your past self will do the same thing. So, and we can do that 5 times over, interact with everything, and now I can watch myself do it. So that's pretty cool. But no designed levels or anything yet. These are just the mechanics, basically. And then at the very end, if I just run for the portal at the end, we can win, reach the end, and beat the level, and go back to the main menu. So yeah, and then it does a nice little replay of them all going at once, which is a nice touch I like. I got that from Power Wash Simulator. Yeah, and then we can go back to the main menu, or the level select. And an important thing that I've done this time around is I've actually made a build of the game. Obviously, this is very plain, nothing, very bare bones, but, options and stuff where actually the field of view doesn't work. Never mind. But I can quit, right? I can open it back up. And all this basic stuff works now, where I can actually play the game, go in and sort of be able to work through a vertical slice where I can play one level. This is how the game's gonna look, and I can do all the main mechanics and play the game with a win condition and win. Haha. So in years past, I have left this part at the end, like actually putting it together into a functional game with a menu, a way to enter the level, a way to beat the level. Usually I leave all that stuff for the end because I just try to jam as much stuff into the gameplay as possible. This time, I am leaving the actual level design and stuff for the end. But so right now, hypothetically, if I had to push this game in another 2 hours, I could probably whip together 5 levels and just be able to do it. But for now, I'm going to catch some sleep, and in the morning I will get a couple more hours in to design some levels, and yeah, we'll submit this thing, so we'll see how that goes. Alrighty, it is a little bit past 7:30, and we got about 5 hours left until submission. I'm just gonna make a couple levels. I'm gonna shoot for 10 levels, maybe a little tutorial thing, and yeah, I'm ready to be done with this. So we'll see. Unfortunately, I did not meet that goal that I said earlier of 10 levels due to a couple of factors. Mainly that my brain was still fried even after 5 hours of sleep. So I wasn't exactly in good shape to think of these big brain time looping puzzle scenarios. But when I did think of something, it also just took me longer than I thought to actually build the levels in the game and test them out. Each one took me about 45 minutes to do, so I only ended up with 5 levels in the game. But even though it only had 5 levels, I was able to submit the game on time successfully. So after everything, was this the successful game jam that I've been looking for after all these years? Well, let's see. The game has a good visual style, I think. It's not the usual plain color scheme that I usually just end up going with for these game jams, so that's definitely a plus. Also, the game functions pretty well. I didn't get any reports this time of any game-breaking bugs. And every time that I played through it, I didn't encounter any major bugs. So overall, with all that considered, I would say that this is actually almost a success. Almost. It's the best attempt so far, for sure. But I think I made one fatal mistake in the beginning. I went with the first idea I had. Okay, my mind immediately jumps to like a time loop. I didn't really think through other ideas and compare pros and cons with them. I just went with the first thing that came to me, and then I spent a majority of the time just building the mechanics of it without any puzzles in mind. I just kept pushing that off till later. So by the end of it, when it came to actually design levels with little time left, I had to pull together this rushed idea using mechanics that I built with no actual puzzles or anything in mind, so I wasn't exactly in a good spot to think of anything good. Clearly, looking back, I should have at least thought of some concepts for puzzles before I started spending 90% of the time building the actual mechanics. And maybe I should have planned a little bit more time for design so that there's more time to tweak things if I needed to tweak the mechanics in any way. But instead, I bottlenecked myself to work with this time loop mechanic that was built with nothing else in mind. Okay, so before we wrap up, I forgot to actually show you how the game turned out fully. So this is Loop Troopers. So I ran out of time to make any tutorial levels, so I just made this this quick screen of text that says you got to reach the portal. There's 5 rounds. You get 10 to 15 seconds each loop. Hopefully you watched the beginning of the video and you know how it works. But this is how you select the levels, and you go through the portal, and now it starts the first level. And so this first level, you know, it's just shift to run faster, and you know, press the button, it opens the door, but there's not enough time to get up there. Oh, rats. So naturally, if I press shift and run, and the other version of me is gonna get that button, the other version of me got me covered. So if you don't want spoilers for the other 4 levels, just exit this video now and go play fucking Loop Troopers, I guess. You're not missing that much. But so now we're on to level 2 here. And key with level 2 here is that each successive door or each successive button opens the next door, but if one individual time clone or loop trooper, you know, tries to do it, they're not gonna have enough time to run to each button and then go to the next one. It's all about timing. So yeah, you just gotta wait for the loop to run up, and then yeah, you just have to hit the button earlier and earlier. And then I think we can make it in this one. Yeah, I'll make it into the portal with this one. Oh, 0.17 left. So you can see how it's all about timing, how each clone, you know, each clone can immediately go right to the button. They don't have to run around and try to get 2 buttons. And here's the next one. Also, I'm pretty sure the bitrate on this video, or when I record this, is going to get absolutely destroyed. For some reason, OBS does not like these glowing lines on the floor, and it like absolutely destroys the bitrate. This one's kind of cool. This one, you press the button and it makes the pillar glow, but you have to get both pillars to glow at the same time for the door to open up. This is like a very basic concept. That's the sort of thing that I read about this, is that I wish I had more time to make cooler shit, you know? But now both of them are gonna be able to get to the buttons, and I can just waltz right through here. So then we go on to level 4, and we got 15 seconds this time, a little bit more room to work. And now this one's got a little bit more going on. That one just drops a wall right in front of me. And then you have to click this button, right? And so I don't know if it's obvious, but each button, the door slides left and right. So we'll just stand back just so you can see what's going on here, right? When you click that, it makes the door slide left and right. How do we get past this? Well, one must strategically enter here while each door gets slid by. So when this door goes over to the left, I can do this one, and it'll open up the one on that far side over there. In terms of shitty puzzles, this one is probably the least shittiest. So I get in here and wait for my last time clone to slide this door over, and bada bing, bada boom, there's the portal. See a little replay of them all working together. Pretty good, pretty good. The grand finale, level 5. Thank you for playing. You're welcome, Travis. Alright, and so for this last level, press the button here, and it opens half of the door. So, you gotta use these platforms here, these pressure plates, I should say, to lift yourself up, or at least a previous clone of yours, to lift yourself up and press this button. So both buttons have to be pressed, and someone's got to be on the platform up here. Oh, I just missed it. Alright. Well. So now that both buttons are pressed and the platforms can be lifted up, I can get up here. Hopefully that makes sense. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. But now we got the replay and we can see them all working together. And both buttons are pressed. And white one gets lifted up by the platform and enters the portal. And so that's all the levels that I was able to get in. You know, not too shabby. Definitely been worse, but now we can wrap up the video. As I said, I am still happy that this is my best Game Jam submission yet. And I've definitely grown as a developer and programmer myself. And even if this one wasn't exactly a success, well, there's always next year.